Today we will be looking at bankruptcy filing trends by chapter in the state of New Jersey. To do this, we have about a dozen charts showing bankruptcy activity in the state going back to 1990. All of this data on filings comes from the Administrative Office of the United States Courts. Now, this first chart shows total filings by year since 1990 through 2015. During that period, there were about 845,000 cases filed in the state of New Jersey. Looking at, say, in the early 90s, from 91 to 95, there were about 25,000 cases filed per year. Kind of a big run-up in the late 1990s and from, say, 1997 to 2004, there were around 40,000 or more cases filed per year. There was a jump in 2005 up to nearly 50,000, although this increase was actually less than most other states saw and happened just prior to bankruptcy reform. Big drop-off in 2006, followed by some very large increases up through 2010. So filings got right back to about where they had been in the years prior to bankruptcy reform. And then filings have dropped over the last 5 years by about 40%. And so right now they're about where they were, say, in 1992, 1993. Looking at filings relative to population, New Jersey over the years has been actually about 7% below the national average. And most states in the Northeast have very low bankruptcy rates. These are the states colored yellow that are more than 25% below the average. The highest rates tend to be in the Southeast, states that get a lot of Chapter 13 cases. Looking at the bankruptcy rate relative to population by year, you can see that New Jersey has followed the national average pretty closely, a few years above, a few years below the national average. From, say, 2001 to 2010, filings tend to be a little below the national average and right about at the average since then. This chart shows Chapter 7 filings by year in the state. About 18,000 per year back in the early 1990s, getting up to over 25,000 from the late 90s up until bankruptcy reform. Big spike in 2005, a huge drop-off, then jumped back up to about where they had been, and then have fallen down over 40% over the last 5 years. And so just as with total filings, Chapter 7 filings in the state are about where they were back in the early 1990s. Now, with Chapter 11 filings, you can see that there was a huge drop-off in the 1990s. I think some of this had to do with increasing the Chapter 13 debt limits. But since about 2000, filings have been around 250 to 300 per year statewide, a little bit more, say, during recessions. In 2016, New Jersey's on pace for, once again, about 250 to 300 Chapter 11 cases. Chapter 13 cases in the state, there was a real big run-up from about 4,000 cases in 1990. They more than tripled, and Chapter 13 cases actually increased 13 straight years in the state from 91 to 03. Big drop-off, much more than most other places showed through 2006. A little run-up during the most recent recession, and then back down about 20% in recent years, although they have gone up actually in 2014 and 2015. Right now, they're about where they were, say, between 1994 and 1995. Looking at the percent of cases filed as Chapter 13s, the national average has been right around 30% most years. Some disruption before and after bankruptcy reform. New Jersey has stayed pretty close to the line, starting out below the average, jumping above it in the early 2000s, and falling below the average again, say from about 2007 to 2015. But the trends have been very much in line with the national. This next chart shows the unemployment rate by quarter, which is kind of a proxy for how the economy in the state has been. You can see that from 2006 to 2010, the unemployment was right at the national average. There were several years where there was a gap where it was higher in New Jersey, and I think it shows that maybe it took a little bit longer to recover from the recession, and now they're back down in the 5% range and very, very close to where the national figure is. Bankruptcy filings peaked nationwide back in September of 2010, and since then they're down by 49% nationwide. In New Jersey, the decline has been only 37%, which is much less than most of the Northeast. Also, very big decreases in the Southwest. The lightest declines over the years have been in the states throughout the Southeast, most of which have very high Chapter 13 rates. But the decline in New Jersey has definitely been below what we've seen in the rest of the northeastern United States. Looking at the rate of decline quarter by quarter, see that in 2011 to 2013, New Jersey was declining at about the national average rate, in the 15% range most quarters. Since then, the rate of decline has been a little bit less than the national average, and actually, right now we have kind of an unclear pattern where we can't tell whether filings are going up or down. We had one quarter up and one quarter down this year. Now, this also Hurricane Sandy hit around this time when the rate of decline started slowing down. It's not clear how much of an impact the superstorm had, because there doesn't seem to be any different pattern between the states or the counties that were directly hit by the storm versus those that had very little damage. Now, looking at the first 6 months of this year, we had one quarter up and one quarter down, but overall filings were up about 2% in the state. Nationwide, they were down about 6%. You can see about 15 states are currently going up in filings. Preliminary figures from the third quarter show that filings probably were very flat during the third quarter. As far as the outlook goes, I think that there will be about 26,000 cases filed in the state this year. There'll be slight increases in coming years. I don't see any return to the 40,000 or more cases per year filed, say, from 1997 to 2004, unless another recession hits or some sort of major bankruptcy legislation is enacted. Well, that concludes this look at bankruptcy filings in New Jersey. For more statistical information and other information on bankruptcy, be sure to visit the newsroom section of the ABI website at www.abi.org.